All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for tuning in to session number 7, managing coaching relationships. Really excited to have this one. We got an amazing panel. Before we get started here, just want to share a few things with everybody. Our spring scholarship applications are now open. So you can go to Uncommon Sports Group and find the scholarships. So those of you that have students working with you, looking for additional funding, please check that out. Great opportunity there. We are doing a book study. We are just finishing week 3, starting in week 4 here. Great attendance if you are interested. It's not too late to run or to ask to join. We still got some books, and we are going a full 14 weeks, so we're not even a third of the way through. So definitely be up for that. And also boxes, bags, shipping labels. I know a lot of you are cleaning out, need places to get things ready for incoming year here shortly. Feel free to reach out, let us know how we can help out. I went through the stats last week, but in 2022, we had 120 students trained, 80 students attending professional development type stuff with us, $40,000 in scholarships, and had a good group going overseas. So please help us out. And then also for those of you that be interested, we are running the first Christians Working in Sports conference. You can check out our website for more information on that. That's in the middle of the summer as well. So without further ado, just again, reminder, CEUs, just make sure we have that information plugged in so we can do that. And again, reminder, the QR code will show up at the end of the session. We did have a change to the schedule for the upcoming schedule. Pretty awesome. We're going to have the Women of AMA is going to be our next session later this month. Pretty excited to that. I don't know if Katie, you want to share anything else on that, but we're excited to have that as a change of the schedule. Okay, great. And today's panel for our session, Stick has graced us with his presence and come back and going to join us for another panel. So thanks, Stick, for joining us. Ashley is coming to us from the University of New Mexico. Zach Berkowitz from Rider, Anthony Castro from Oregon State University, and then Spencer is joining us from Eastern Washington University. And so I'll go ahead and get started. We'll kind of do a round robin, kind of going back and forth, answering some questions that we've kind of pre-established. If anybody has questions as we go through, please throw them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them at the end as time allows. So first, we'll start out with Stick. I'll start out with you, bud. The first question we have kind of for everybody. What have you found the best way to communicate with your coaches? Text, email, chat in person, follow up with email? That's a big one that we kind of do. And then the follow-up kind of part of that we'd like everyone to kind of touch on. Do you try to adapt to their form of communication, or do you have a sticking piece where you're trying to making sure that they do what you're doing as well? So Stick, we'll start with you and go from there.
So for me, it depends on the coach. So like when I was on the college level, I had this one Olympic coach that never checked your email, ever. So I knew I was gonna have to, he was always text or phone call. So if we talked on the phone, I would follow up and say, hey coach, for our conversation, you wanted X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and she would say yes. And then I would screenshot said text and I put it in my deal. I'll get back to that in a second. But like if I had a coach that I really couldn't get to reply, I would just tag the sport administrator on the email and say, hey, coach, for our last conversation, I needed this by this date. It's this date. Here's the other correspondence that we had in the past, blah, blah, blah. And the sport administrator would like pick the phone up immediately and say, hey, what's going on? Like, how can I help? I need answers from this coach. So like, you don't really want to do that way. I'd rather talk to you face to face. That's how I can sit there. So coach and I sit down. I have a notepad, and boom, I can plot out the week, what he wants, If it's grass, if it's turf, like, hey, here's my opinion on what I think we should wear for the week, shoes wise. Practice fields are gonna be here on this date. We're gonna be on this spot on this date. It's all about finding that common ground to where you both can figure out how to dance with one another. Once you get that, I think your job is easy. But you got some of those coaches who, oh, I never got that text, or I never got that email, and then I'll just go to my little handy screenshots. Boom, here's everything that we talked about on this day, and tag their sport administrator in there, and then we have one big meeting and get on the same page.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate that. Ashley, you want to follow up with you and kind of the same kind of question?
Sure. So I'm a big in person. I like having that face-to-face conversation with people. But similar to what Stick said, follow up with an email or text message just protects you, protects them, just so no one can be like, well, I thought I said this. You know, and when I had 15 sports, I would, it was an in-person conversation, I always had a notebook with me to write down notes. So to make sure when I went back to send that text message or that email that I had stuff written down based off what the coach said. I think it's also important based off the coach that you adapt to how they communicate, because you can try and force your way of communication on, but if they're not responding to it, you need to adapt to how they're communicating to get those answers that you need. Unfortunately, in my office, I get terrible reception. So a lot of times, if I need to have a quick conversation with my coach, it's actually a FaceTime conversation, because it's the only way I can get a hold of him, just because of my cell service. But he's a good sport and he'll usually answer those.
Awesome. Zach, would you chime in? I know you've got a whole different way of doing it, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I'm like Ashley, I'm more in person. I have most of the coaches' office are in the same building as me. So my door is always open from 9 to 5 when I get here. Some coaches I'll rarely see, so it's more so email or phone. Sometimes coaches don't pick up the phone or respond to a text message. Like Stick said, I've done the sport administrator route once. It didn't go over too well with the one coach who thought it was wrong for me to put the administrator on there. But when I'm sending 6 to 7 emails for one question and I get no answer, I'm gonna have to find another way to figure something out. But yeah, I'm more in person. I like it that way. I have great relationships with all the coaches here, and they like coming down and even just shooting the breeze. But it works for me that way.
Thanks, Zach. Anthony, you want to chime in?
Yeah, they've Stick, Ashley, and Zach have kind of touched on it all. Every coach is different. Like they mentioned, document everything so that way you have the recourse to have your side of the story backed up and exactly what was said or typed. I'm comfortable. I mean, either way, like I said, every coach is different. So just finding a way to figure out which way a form of communication is best for that coach. A lot of times, yeah, they're not into looking at emails and text messages and stuff. So it's most of the time usually the in-person that gets at least the head coaches involved in understanding what's going on or what you need to get from them. But yeah, I like I said, just finding the best way for each coach. Everybody's different. If everybody can be on the same page in your best way and your best form of communication, of course it benefits us. It helps us. It's a lot easier. But in the end, there's always going to be the one or two coaches that you just have to keep poking. And usually on my end, I usually will go to the ops. The director of ops for that sport would be my second in line to reach out to first before I go to the admin. And that seems to be working pretty good where they get coaches in line.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah.
And Spencer.
Yeah, I feel like being in person is the best way for me to communicate. Just in case I have any questions, it's kind of more of an immediate answer I can get. The only problem is oftentimes coaches are busy. They're in constant meetings. So if I can't get that in-person conversation, then I'll definitely email Or like Anthony said, maybe I'll go to the director initially before I bother the head coach with a problem unless it's urgent. But yeah, I feel like for me, getting information, I feel is best going in person. But if it just can't work out that way, email. But on the back end, receiving information, I'm often myself not in the equipment room. I might find myself in a lot of different locker rooms or around the facility or at practice. So coaches have found that reaching me if they want something is best to email me, unless it, chances are I might not be in the office. So
Perfect. Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, obviously being in sports, in-person conversations are always the best way to go. It seemed like pretty best, but I think the other part too is also those important ones, document them. I think that's a good takeaway as well. We'll go kind of back through the other way. So we'll start with you, Spencer, and work our way through the other way here. Kind of follow-up question. So not so much as the communication, but just the relationships. I think this is important to dive in and learn or discuss. How are you managing relationships, time spent with coaches across multiple sports? And for those of you that don't have multiple sports, I know the football specific, you've got multiple coaches you're dealing with. So even within one sport, you've got a lot of different personalities. How are you managing those? And then the big thing is how do you manage possible negative impressions or a negative type of things that might arise amongst those coaches? So Spencer, we'll start with you and then work our way through.
Yeah, so here at Eastern, it's just Augie and I as the equipment managers for all of our sports. So we have a hand in knowing all of our coaches. We're not one sport specific. So I do get to see all of our coaches quite a bit. One thing that we do, it just has kind of worked out, is we just basketball at noon, send an email out, whoever wants to do it. We try to get that face-to-face, create better relationships, shoot around. It's not super competitive, or it doesn't always basketball. Sometimes it's pickleball as of late. But just trying to get almost outside of work with them. And even though we're still at work using the facility, just not really focused on your specific job, just get a break, get to know them a little bit better. And then, yeah, when dealing with the negative impressions, if they arise, just trying to, every coach wants to be the main sport, the main priority that wants to be focused on. You got to give them that every now and then, even if they aren't the most impactful sport at your university. Getting to know them better, it can only benefit you and your relationship with them. Pop in at a practice every now and then, if you're one sport specific. Like Josh was saying, is get to know all of your coaches, all your position coaches too. So that's just one way we do it at Eastern, is just trying to get almost outside the work area and build a relationship, just get to know them on a little bit deeper level, personal level.
That's awesome. Thanks, Spencer. I know Anthony, being the one-man shop at Idaho for a while, and in your current role, you've got a good way of balancing all these different relationships. It'll be good to hear from you.
Yes, yeah, I mean, coming from Idaho, I was in charge of all sports, football and Olympic sports. Here at Oregon State, I'm only overseeing the Olympic sports, and we have equipment liaisons. So, I mean, just getting to know them offhand, finding out what coach, the head coach does like, it's real meaningful. And like Spencer said, just trying to acknowledge head coaches, even though we're not usually around them too much. Just when we do see them, like say, yeah, just, encourage a conversation, trying to ask just, how things are going outside of work, family, just trying to get to know them on that personal level is really huge. And then just obviously with there's going to be negative impressions, like you said, every coach wants everything for their sport at that time. But, just a prioritization of, what season is going at that moment. I try to prioritize that way, but, it doesn't really matter if, it's basketball season. We got, our women's soccer or, even football coaches coming through, just trying to make yourself present in that moment, let them know that, you do notice them and just you're trying to build that relationship with them to get that understanding of what their wants and needs are for their sports.
That's awesome. I think present in the moment the most difficult thing to do when things are being chaotic. And I think that's so important with any kind of relationship, especially with coaches, especially if you're new, the big one. Zach, would you mind sharing a little bit about relationships and how you're building them there at Ryder?
Yeah, so I'm in charge of every sport here. I don't have an assistant. That was kind of the same way in my last job too. So it's important for me to just kind of walk around and pop into people's offices and practice like that. You know, I can go to baseball's practice, hop into the cage and just sit in the dugout, and our coach, will look back and kind of just give me a head nod just so he knows that I'm noticing the team. And a lot of those guys actually work for me. I also run our event staff here, and I'm in facilities as well here. So sometimes it's harder if I got to work on something in the gym where I have to fix a rim or a clock, something like that. I may not be around all the time, but I'm trying my best to swing around to practices the most. Basketball, sit in the stands for a little bit, swing over to track on the nicer days, or go over to the softball and just check out on them. So, I think most coaches are really appreciative of that. Even if, it takes them out of the element of coaching for 5 minutes, just to kind of talk to them about what's going on. It's good for them. And then outside of the office, I golf with some coaches, go to some breweries with some coaches every now and then. So just so they get, to know me a little bit more outside of the work realm. But, it's hard when you have 19 coaches trying to gain, your time and trying to space that out evenly.
Yeah. Zach, thanks for sharing. Ashley, would you mind sharing? And maybe since you're new on campus, how did you, I guess, get that going, especially getting a short start to the season?
Sure. So similar to Anthony, I came from a place where I had all sports and switched over to where I just focused on football. So something I kind of adapted to just my football coaches is, I like to get out of the equipment office from time to time. And so when I had multiple sports, I'd take a lap through everybody's office, pop in, say hi, see if they needed anything for the day, for an upcoming trip, whatever it might be. And I've recently adapted that to just football. I'll go up and take a lap through their offices and make a point of saying hi to them and just checking in. It's nice having only one sport in some aspects now, where can focus on that outside time of we do a lot at our head coach's house. Like, we're all going over there on Sunday for the Super Bowl. So you meet their families and you get involved in their kind of knowing what their families are like. And so making a point of asking about that when you do the lap through the offices. So I also just had surgery on my foot. So they've kind of adapted and have started coming down to my office and checking in on me to see how I'm doing. So I'm not having to make an unnecessary trip up to see them. But when I had those multiple sports, I made a point of kind of what Zach said of popping out to different practices or going to their offices, just so those coaches know that I do care about each of their sport as that top priority sport. And kind of going back to, that communication aspect and making sure everybody feels like they are the most important sport is sending like emails. When we would do ordering, I'd send it to everybody at one time in one chain email instead of multiple smaller emails. And then that way everybody was getting the same communication, and it wasn't as if I was favoring one sport or one coach over another.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. Stick, we'll round it out with you. Share a little bit about obviously your current new situation, and then reflect back maybe just a little bit of time on campus and maybe how that differed. You're muted, bud.
Up here it's easy because everybody's in one building. So you go from walk out my office, the weight room's right there, walk down the hall, training room, coach's office is in the front. Just going through each department. Hey, what do you need for the week? How can I help you? So prime example, the director of administration was like, hey, it's always been done this way in the past. So he's talking to me. I kind of looked at him. He said, why you give me that look? I said, bro, that's more work than it needs to be. I said, here's how I would do that same situation. And it took out like 6 steps. He was like, well, why? I said, I don't know. Depends on, I said, each person is different. This is how I would do it. And we implemented that and went with it. And like, coach came to the equipment room. He never comes in here. He was like, hey, this new process, I kind of like it. What do you need me to do? I said, X, Y, and Z. And if you need something else, you come back and see me, or just let me know and I'll find you. And this past year at Buffalo, he needed something, but he didn't. When he came in the equipment room, he just opened up this trunk and took it out himself. And I looked and I waved at him. He waved back and kept going. You know, it's just the process of this is what we do. This is how I can help you, and getting them to buy in on that deal. And if so, it's different with the players, but the coaches, like if we're in the caf or whatever, you might have 1 or 2 coaches come sit at your table, and we're talking about, hey, how's your family? How's your family? How's the kids doing? Like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Blah blah blah. And y'all said you got way more time in the season, like hustle and bustle. But like same thing as like the rest of the people did when I was overseeing 16 sports that wasn't football. I would just go around to the coach's office. In the fall, I knew volleyball, soccer had the priority. Okay, what do y'all need? What jerseys are you wearing first? Let's get those in. Hey, coach, this is on back order. I can get this in. What do you want to do? It's all about having a plan and sticking to your plan and letting people know, here's what I want to do, but if it don't work, here's the backup plan, and go from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, the planning part and being intentional with each sport, I think, would be really important on each campus, and getting that and equalizing that relationship and that attention is big, especially when we got multiple sports. And strain on many of you, but definitely important. So thanks, Dick. Thanks everybody for sharing, answering that question. We're gonna go back through. I got another question that I really wanted to focus on, the conflict resolution. We've kind of talked about it in real quickly so far, but wanted to focus on that. And really the question is, how do you handle, you know, a situation or a problem that's kind of out of your control? Maybe it's kind of spiraled. Maybe if you guys, some of you have an example of this and how you handle it, and whether it be good ways or bad ways you've done in the past. Those are always good ways to learn from the group, if you don't mind sharing. And then just kind of what, you know, what kind of expectation are you kind of putting on that relationship with the coach, and how you resolve that? So let's talk about conflict resolution. We'll start with Dick and then work our way back through.
All right, I'm gonna try to keep this as simple as I can, because conflict resolution and myself, we kind of clash on some means, especially if you knew you shouldn't have done it. I get kind of sideways about it. So in Northern Colorado, I instituted a policy that if you wanted to order something, I had to sign off on it. So it went to the business office, and when it came back from the business office, if her signature was on it, I knew that the money was in the account to order it. So what happened was, I had this coach who went directly to my rep and placed an order, and I knew nothing about it. The AD calls me and said, hey, why is this bill for $8,000 on my desk? I'm like, what are you talking about? So I go directly to his office and I look at the order. I'm not going to say her name. Well, we had a nice little come to Jesus meeting, and some stuff got cleared up. But I basically said, hey, this is what I want to do from going forward. This is how the process is going to be. So it was the head coach's signature, the sport administrator's signature, the business office, myself, and the head equipment room liaison, they signed it too. And that's how it worked. The bill got paid, but it was just the principle of the matter that the coach went behind my back and did this stuff that she wasn't supposed to do, and almost got me fired. I was like, boss man, I didn't place this order. Like, here it is. Let's call the rep. And the rep's like, oh yeah, she called. She wanted X, Y, and Z. And my AD went absolutely berserk. He said, if the stick don't call you, you don't place nothing. And that's how we got past that.
Ashley, why don't you go next?
Okay, so we're having an issue right now of nobody can seem to figure out who leaves our back door to our indoor open. And I kind of reached my breaking point with this conversation this morning before this Zoom, because just because my office is right outside the locker room does not mean that I am the only person that should be responsible for closing it, because in order to use it, you have to go through the locker room. While working with a football team, there are times I cannot go in the locker room. So I am probably one of the only people that doesn't actually use this door. And when I am the last person, I will make sure it's shut. And so it kind of having conversations about like, how do we, like Stick said, implement a policy to make sure this door gets closed? Because I understand the point of it's a security reason that we need to make sure this is closed at night. But we have a lot going on in our building. We have construction, we have players that will come back that can get into the locker room that, you know, they want to get extra work in, which I can appreciate. So we're working on creating a policy to, you know, ensure that that happens. I'm a big person. I like to talk things out when conflict arises to reach that. I don't like conflict, but it needs to be discussed and not avoided to reach a conclusion that works for all parties. So it doesn't keep happening.
All right, Zach, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I think talking about Sticks with people ordering stuff and not knowing it. In my last job, when I was at Southern New Hampshire, we ordered new basketball uniforms, and I was not on the artwork approval. It just assistant basketball coach just took it upon himself to do it, and we get them in, and there's tiger stripes on the numbers. Well, we're not the Tigers. We were the Penman, which is a accountant. And we find out that they're not compliant with the NCAA. So we have brand new uniforms and we can't even use them. And the question was, why were they approved? So, you know, then on, I said every artwork approval has to go through me, which was the standard, and it just did not get emailed to me. So that was a tough one, because now we paid a ton of money for these uniforms, and now we're redoing the uniforms mid-season, and they're not getting to wear anything. So that's huge. A lot of the artwork approval here at Rider 2 is big with me, and also the color. So we're very specific with our color. We're collegiate burgundy, even though some people like to say we're maroon. And last year during, we had a game against Iona, who is maroon, and our whole basketball staff walked out with the exact same top that Iona was wearing in the same color, only we had our logo on it, they had theirs, and we looked identical to them. And it really pissed off our AD and all the other people that work in the higher ups to be like, who approved them to get these colors? So their promo orders, all their stuff like that, I have to look at it and double check it that they're not ordering that maroon color, and it's a problem here, but you know, I feel like I have a good handle on it.
All right, Anthony, why don't you go next?
Okay. Yeah, you know, one of the main things is obviously when me being new, I just started about 7 months ago. Yeah, I had to come in. It was already beginning of August, you know, so camps and everything were already rolling, teams were going. It's just letting coaches and the staff know, you know, what your expectations are right up front, you know, whether it's ordering process, you know, whether it's handing out gear, just no matter what, it could be the many things in our field. But yeah, you know, it's just always showing them that us as equipment managers, I like to show them that I'm always trying to find a solution for them no matter what. I know there are things we can't control, you know, such as, you know, items being delayed through shipping. If items do fall apart, they're not holding up, whether the logos or, you know, the printing is starting to peel off of shirts and stuff. I've always been real successful with just, letting them know that I'm trying to come up with a solution and always incorporating them with whoever I'm communicating with. If it's my Nike rep, whether it's an outside vendor, just letting them know that I'm not just blowing smoke to them and making up anything. I usually try to keep them incorporated with what the process is to help them along as well. So that way they understand, like, okay, he's not, it's not him just not ordering the items or, not putting forth the effort for our sport. So it's just one thing, yep, setting expectations, always trying to have a solution at hand. And, in our world, as you all know, it's forever changing, and we just got to be very adaptable and just try to find that solution or a solution that will work for you or that coach or the program overall.
Nice. Yeah. Same as Ashley. I like what she said. Conflict is not something you really want to have to deal with, but it is necessary to come to a resolution. It needs to happen when things aren't going the way that they should be going. An example we've had is we got some cleats a couple years ago that just were falling apart, and obviously our players noticed, our coaches noticed. They say, well, what is this? Why would we order these terrible cleats? They were top of the line cleats, the best Adidas had, but our rep had contacted us like maybe a week or two before camp saying, hey, these cleats, something happened with manufacturing. We got to send them back, but we needed extra cleats. We had to, luckily we had, we keep a stock of extra set of cleats just over the years compiling. So we had a solution for that. But just explaining that to our coaches that, hey, this is totally unique. It's not something that happens obviously every year. It was a problem not on our end. It wasn't that we ordered terrible product. It's just the manufacturing missed something in one of their batches, and we just happened to be one of the schools that got part of those cleats just weren't holding up. Fortunately, we had a solution in trying to remedy that, as we couldn't return them right before camp because we did need something, and it wasn't every single cleat that was breaking down. But just being forward with your coaches and just explaining to them the situation, not trying to hide anything, we find is the best way to resolve that conflict, and then keeping a paper trail so you know exactly what happened, who ordered what time it was ordered. It wasn't a late order or anything that was put in. So just being as transparent with your coaches as possible is the best way to handle that conflict, and then coming to them with a solution as well. With our next question, we'll ask the panel, when a problem occurs, what is your preferred solving strategy? Do you inform your coach right away? Do you try to solve it yourself? How would you explain to them the situation that's going on? And I guess I can go first. We'll work our way back up the list again. Like I said before, kind of the previous question, is my best way is just to be transparent. Sure, if you can try to solve it yourself, you can still let them know, but you can handle the situation. But you definitely want to inform your coach what's going on so they're not caught off guard. And then again, trying to blame you for something that is happening. Get your rep involved, let them know that, hey, this is, whichever rep it may be, this is the problem we're having. What can we do to make this right? This is the timeline that we're on. And then my coach always says, I don't just want a problem. Don't bring me the problem. Also bring me a solution. So also have a backup plan. Just say, hey, this is the problem we're running into, or this is what I'm noticing. This shipment is delayed because XYZ reasons, but I've already looked into it. Here's what we can do to remedy that situation. And what do we want to do going forward? Do you want to wait this out, or do we want to go ahead and cancel that order, and just order this one? So just being as transparent as you can with them is the best way we found to kind of work around a problem that may occur or a problem that is potentially going to occur. Anthony, why don't you go next?
Okay. Yeah, you stated it pretty good. You definitely want to try to get in front of the problem and I like to try and solve it if it's something that I could definitely solve, or at least start to move forward in a positive way. but yeah, there's going to be things that we can't control or can't solve on our own without, getting information from reps or vendors or whatnot. But yeah, I like to see what the problem is, see how, if I could solve it, I'll definitely solve it. And then if the coach doesn't have to know, or, the ops guy doesn't have to know, I mean, if the problem's solved, it's solved. But yeah, of course, not everything gets solved in the timely matters that we like. And it is just a matter, like I said, being transparent, explain to them situation, what's happening, and letting them know that you have a solution or a couple solutions or backup plans if that first attempt isn't working, or it ends up falling through again. So yeah, just keeping the main line of communication with your coaches and your staff, I think is huge, especially if it's something that is out of our control and we can't solve right off the bat.
All right, Zach, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I think for me, when I was an undergrad, when I was working for the football team in college, what the head coach said to me once, he was like, "Don't make a problem bigger, just solve it." Basically, for him, it was, "Don't bring me this issue. I got kind of other things to worry about." But for me, that's kind of how I've always lived. If it's dire, I will tell the coach, but for the most part, I'm trying to figure it out by myself. There's been issues with, Adidas and ordering. Sometimes we won't get a cancellation notification, and I'm checking 2 weeks later, and I find out that 20 things got canceled. So now I'm on the phone with my rep, trying to, okay, give me the next best thing. What's a comparable item, and can we get it? And once I get it, I'll kind of like give it to the coach and be like, hey, is this what we're thinking about? Did you want this? I can still work on a couple other things. I forgot a kicking net once on an away game. First thing I did was call the opposing team and said, "Hey, listen, can we borrow kicking nets? You got another one?" And they did. It was on the sideline the next day. And then 3 weeks later, when our coach was looking at film from the previous weeks, he was like, "That wasn't our kicking net." And I was like, "Was our kicking net on the sideline?" He said, "Yeah." So, well, problem solved. So usually for me, I just try to solve the problem unless it's dire, and I definitely need help.
Awesome. Ashley, why don't you go next?
So kind of like what we were talking about with learning how each coach wants to communicate. Each coach, I've learned, wants a different level in involvement when there's a problem. So some coaches want to know every single little thing. And if you forget to tell them something, then they almost get mad at you. Where it's like, well, I had it handled. It wasn't a problem. So that's why I didn't want to tell you, or that's why I didn't tell you. So going along in my career, I've kind of learned the problems to tell coaches, and the problems that, like, if they don't notice it, then it wasn't a problem to them, kind of thing. Oh my gosh, I had a great example for this and now I'm drawing a blank, but little things get forgotten all the time. I've had to borrow ball pumps, and fortunately have not had to ask anybody for a kicking net, but I've learned that just anytime there's a problem, to have a solution. Going into this season, we were 2 days away from playing a home game, and our new home jerseys had not arrived. So I had 2 different backup plan jerseys ready to go based off what was going to happen with that. Kind of turned into some long nights those last 2 days, just because we were finally having to get some last minute nameplates added, because that was one thing that coach was not gonna be okay with, was not having names on the back of the jersey, even though at one point that's the only way I thought we would have a set of uniforms for our first game. All worked out then, but definitely, like others have said, it's great to have a backup plan, and don't necessarily take the problem to them without that solution in hand.
Absolutely. Always having a backup plan is a must. Stick, why don't you go next?
So my motto is, I always tell coaches, you coach, I'll equip. If there's a problem, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna bring you a solution when I bring you the problem. So for me, this year, so everybody can agree, since COVID hit, nothing's been the same on supply lines and this and this and that. Hey, your 10 units are canceled, but we're gonna give you 10 units of this. I'm like, if it's not black or white or team color, I don't want it. So prime example here is this is week 3 preseason. I'm in Vegas for 6 days. We played them last game of the preseason. I got my white jerseys the day before we played the game. Wasn't panicking. Didn't really care. I'm like, hey, bro. I told Bob, the Raiders guy, I said, hey, listen, I brought the navies. If I need you to go white, can you go white? He said, oh yeah, no problem. So I went and I talked to the coach. I said, Coach, I really wasn't gonna bring it to your attention, but we might be wearing navy tomorrow, just so you know. I don't care. So long as he knew, talk to head coach. And I called the league. I said, hey, this is what's going on. May need to switch jersey colors because we set our jersey colors way in advance. So up here, it's like you get a sheet and you fill it in, and it says, "Hey, I'm wearing navy. I'm going to wear red. We're gonna wear white on the road. Hey, Miami might want you to wear navy on this week at Miami." So everybody gets this list of jersey colors. So it all comes out, and I'm like, "Yeah, this could be a problem." But crisis averted. Jersey got there. Shipped them directly to Bob overnight. You know, we got them all on in the hotel that night. Flight the next day, set the locker room up. Blah blah blah. Always have, if you can fix the problem before it snowballs out of control, it's a good thing to do. But if you let that thing linger and you know about it, hey, the rep emailed you 2 weeks ago. Hey, this is gonna be here a week later than we expected. Go tell coach, hey coach, the stuff you ordered, we can't wear this week. We can wear this. We just can't wear that. Do you mind moving this date? And they'll say yes. You go tell marketing what's going on, because marketing got to know, especially in college. Oh, it's a whiteout game. No, it ain't. You're gonna be wearing this color tonight, and that's gonna be the end of it. So as long as you stay on top and you're doing your job to the best of your ability, and you're communicating to your people and everybody who needs to know what's going on, you'll be okay. But if they find out you didn't, and the AD or somebody calls the rep and say, hey, tell me what's going on with this, and they say, oh, I sent Stickers email 3 weeks ago, that's on you. They ain't on them, that's on you.
Great. So the next question is, how do you manage others' expectations of how you will get your job done when you're dealing with multiple sports? If one coach sees you doing one thing one way for a specific coach, how do you let the other coach know, hey, I'm going to handle that, or this is how gets done. This is my process. Stick, why don't we start with you? You mentioned it earlier, and when you talked about coaches just kind of coming into your equipment room and just kind of grabbing something, if that wasn't part of your process, how would you manage that? They think this is how I'm going to do it.
So my equipment room, all my equipment has ever been in open door policy. I don't care if it was Olympic coach, football coach, but I'm gonna tell y'all the secret. You want to know the secret to equipment managers to this deal? Everybody want to be like football. Everybody wants to be like whatever sports winning at your school. That's what all the other coaches want. So I tried to treat my coaches like I would treat the football coach, the basketball coach, the lacrosse coach, the rowing coach. Coach, listen, this is what I can do for you. I can do these 3 things. I can't do everything that you want, but I can get you everything that you need. You give them the needs and the wants speech up front. Well, football got this polo. We didn't get that polo. Well, football ordered that polo. It was in the book. It was in the booking order. You saw it. It's the same polo. You just didn't order. Well, I can get it from the bookstore if you want one. You know, how many units you want? You know, X, Y, and Z. You can pay for it out of your pocket. My favorite coaches are golf coaches. I love the golf coaches because golf coaches got the best swag ever. They don't got, if you're Adidas or you're a Nike school, yes, you got the Adidas golf, you got the Nike golf stuff, but they might have something TaylorMade, Titleist, Ping, FootJoy. Not everybody's gonna wear the Nike shoe. They might wear the FootBoy shoe. They might wear the Adidas shoe. They're gonna wear something. I always told them this. I always had Doc sign a note. Hey Doc, this kid has a foot issue. I would give it to the AD. I send a copy to the rep. This shoe fits better for her foot. She plays in the LPGA now. She's a FootJoy girl. That's fit her. The Adidas shoe did something to her foot. We got her out of it. You know, it's whatever in terms of athlete. But go back to your question. I always treated the coaches all the same. Hey, listen, this is the booking order. Football's ordering this. This is I'll make sure the football booking order was done first before I went to my Olympic coach and say, hey, football's ordering this. If you want it, I can get more units onto it, but you're gonna have to pay maybe $2 extra just because I got to squeeze you on this side. And they understood that. So as long as you are upfront, honest, and straight shooter with them, don't try to hide nothing from them, and treat them all the same. I treated the head football coach the same as I treated the volleyball coach. You know, it's just it's the kind of business that we're in. We're a service industry, and you got to treat everybody the same. Same way you would treat the AD, the same way you treat the janitor. It's how you set the standard of how you're going to run your room. I don't matter if she's a first-year coach or a 26-year coach. I treat them the same. I would give more attention to the first-year coach though, but she didn't always knew what she was doing. And then the 26-year coach, hey, coach, you need anything? No. So I'll talk to the assistant coaches because I knew she was set. But if that first-year coach had a question, you take the time out of your job and explain it to her. Hey, this is how we do this. Whatever you want to change, we can change. But this is what your sport gets. This is the comp limit. Anything else above that has to be approved. You tell them all the rules, tell them all the stipulations, and everybody's on the same page. Now, anybody deviates from that, that's on them. Then you go and get the sport administrator, or you go talk to the AD when you talk to a one-on-one. See, I was lucky I could talk to my AD and say, hey, boss man, this is what's going on. This is what I want to do to fix it. Do I have your support? Yes or no? He would always say yes, because I always brought him a solution to the problem.
Great. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Ashley, what about you? How do you manage their expectations?
Similar to what Six said of treating everybody as the sport. One instance that I can remember is when I was at my previous school, the softball coach, we experimented with packing the girls' bags the same way that I would pack for men's and women's basketball, and how we would pack somewhat similar to how we would pack football. But in experimenting it, we actually learned that her girls were more disciplined when they packed their bags themselves, with their extra stuff, not necessarily their uniforms, because there were less issues with that. So we kind of came up with a hybrid method of I pack, you pack type list. And then that actually carried over into some other sports. And we realized that those coaches, you know, that I pack, you pack method is actually taught some of these athletes some life skills and not necessarily hand holding for post collegiate sport life. And it's something I've still learned to do now with my football team. So it's kind of funny how, you know, we had this expectation of, or she had this expectation of what we were going to do. And the first time it failed, I was super bummed and disappointed, because I really admired that coach, and I wanted to, my goal is to always treat them the same. And that was the biggest thing I'd learned with that coach is she was the most winningest coach in that school history. And she was, you know, often forgot about because of how other support staff areas would treat her. And so I really tried to make it a point. And when it failed, I was so bummed and so disappointed, because I was like, I'm just trying to get her to a level that everybody else is at. But it ended up working out, and it's a method that I still now use when I only have football. So I'm also probably the hardest on myself out of anybody, to the point where I have my boss and my head football coach that are like, you actually need to be easier on yourself. It's okay. Nothing. We're surviving, we're making it through. So just some kind of experiences I've learned from handling that.
Great. Zach, why don't you go next?
Just to pick up on what Ashley and Stick said, you know, treating every coach the same is this kind of the same thing I do here. And the expectations that I have for their teams as well, and players, you know, here being the only one, and I have a couple student equipment managers that work with me, I ask for one thing because, like I said, I don't travel with the teams, and I also am the event staff here. So I'm going to be working a game. If there's a baseball game going on, I might be working this track meet for the whole day for 8 hours, and I'm not around. But at the same time, I ask them after games, when all your dirty laundry, you put that stuff in the bag. You don't lay it out on the floor for me or my staff to come pick it up after you. We're not your mates. And, they've, at first it kind of was like, oh, no one's ever kind of told us that before. Kind of they just like, did that and picked it up. And, that's not what our job is. Our job isn't to be your mom. So, a couple weeks ago, our women's basketball team got back from the road and left their stuff in a huge mess in a pile and walked in and saw it. And I turned the corner and walked right out. And, I let it, just stand there for an hour and waited. And then, our basketball coach emails me and said, I thought we had this conversation about you guys picking this stuff up, right away, which we always do. And I said, well, if you want to go take a look in the locker room, and I'll tell you why I didn't pick it up. And, the minute that she walked into that locker room, she was, fuming. And I was on an email chain with every single one of her players. And she said, never again. And or else you're going to be doing the laundry yourselves. And, I respect that because she stood up for me. But at the same time, we had that, conversation where it's like, listen, I'm not trying to not wash your stuff or be irresponsible for your stuff. It's just that, yeah, they're still kids, but at a certain point they need to grow up and learn how to be adults. And that's just not something that I'm going to have my kids doing. And, just having that communication with all the coaches. And now when we go and do all the laundry for our kids, our teams, it's literally in the bag, just zipped up, ready to go for me to pick up and go wash. It's never on the floor. And beforehand, it was like that. So I'm proud that we were able to have that conversation with all coaches. And I think just being on the same page is what's going to really pave the way for you to have just a great relationship with your coaches.
Great. Anthony, why don't you go next?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just setting expectations, as everybody's mentioned, being in constant contact, letting them know, how you like to operate and what you like to do. Now, obviously, our ways, I mean, it's what we prefer, but me coming into the new situation and the new position, I would do things a little bit different, but they already had a system in line that was working just fine. So if it was working and I could adapt to it and it doesn't, impact me too much, still gives me time for other sports, then yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I mean, now making adjustments where adjustments need to be made, and communicating that to, the ops person, the actual athletes themselves. Before you even bring it up to the coach, I usually try to let the athletes know, what my expectations are. This is what I expect from, after road games, not necessarily competition games or whatnot, just, everyday laundry. I'm sure some of you have those stragglers where they practice from, 12 to 3. You go in there 5 o'clock, grab their laundry loads to wash, and then you're there putting it away. Lo and behold, you go look in the bin again, and there's somebody that turned in their loop after, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, I wouldn't wash that laundry loop. And then the next day when that athlete comes in and, is wondering where his stuff is, it's a matter of just letting him, laying down the law, letting him know, hey, this is our principle. You got to get your loops in right away after practice. We give you enough time, about 2.5 hours to get stuff in to make sure that it does get clean and ready for the next day. But yeah, just constant communication, letting them know your expectations and how you operate. Like I said, as long as, everything's working smoothly and, make adjustments where adjustments are needed. Usually everything works out, especially with us that deal with the Olympic sports and whatnot. It's one of them things, have multiple sports going at the same time. So just the prioritization and the expectations is something good to relate to.
Great. Yeah, kind of like what everyone else said. Just when we go into a position, it's maybe not changing anything. If you're new to the position, not changing anything right away. Seeing what works and then making small adjustments as these things arise. Like Zach was mentioning with the laundry. Yeah, Stick was saying, we're a service industry, but like Zach saying, we are we have certain expectations. So help us help you. We will get things done, but there's a process that you have to follow, especially as a student athlete. You know, specifically with laundry, we'll more than happily wash, dry, hang your laundry back up, but you have to follow the process that we've set in place. And luckily, if you've got that great relationship, like we're talking about with coaches, they'll be able to have your back. Because the first thing an athlete's going to do is go to your coach and let them know, hey, this stuff isn't getting washed or this stuff's not getting dried. So having that relationship with a coach is very beneficial to having your own back in a sense. One thing I've noticed over all these questions is communication is key with your coaches, whether it's good, whether it's bad. You gotta be able to be transparent with them and communicate with them over conflict, over how to get things done. If an athlete's complaining, whatever it is. But with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jalen, and Jalen will close us out. Oh, sorry, I'll kick it over to Josh here.
Hey guys, sorry for the mix up or computer shut down on me. Real quick, Al, I know Al Survey, you wanted to mention something before we log off here. Go ahead, Al. Al, you on?
I'm sorry, did you say, who are you calling for?
Al Survey.
Oh.
I'll speak here, Josh. I don't know.
Okay.
I thought Al was on the call. But anyway, education committee is looking for individuals that are interested in writing journals for this year's AMA journal. So if anybody has interest or has a topic that you want to write a journal on, just reach out to either Al Survey or Mike Valentine. Call them, give them a call, email them. But I'm not sure why Al's not on here right now, but that's all Al was going to speak on for the education committee. So if anybody is interested in writing a journal this year, get with Mike or Al.
Awesome. Thanks, Jalen. And lastly, Melly, I don't know if you wanted to take the floor and add anything before we close anything out.
Thank you. I'm sure it's everyone's, it's my favorite part of the day when I get to close this meeting out. I'm really excited about this mentorship and engagement team and what you've all done. It's just been terrific. We keep getting numbers consistently. And I'm looking across the panels and seeing who's on here. We got a couple NFL guys on here. We've got a lot of different divisions and conferences represented on these calls on this Zoom. And I think it's really wonderful that we're all together and able to find this space. Just want to mention a couple of things to you guys. First off, the strategic plan is all on the website. I hope all of you have had time to take a look at it because it's the blueprint for all of us. It's not the blueprint for me, it's a blueprint for our organization of what we, me and the district directors and vice president and executive staff, Matt and everybody. It's where we're going to go. So take 10 minutes, print it up, read it, and let me know. I've gotten a lot of people feedback, but we're going to be going some places that are going to be really exciting. My personal goal is to have 1,000 people at convention before my term is up. So that's all, get that rolling, pass the word around, talk to your ADs. You know, we're talking, this is about communication. We don't do a good enough job talking about ourselves with our administrators, our coaches. We're just as integral a part of an athletic department as athletic training and strength and conditioning coaches. We're just as important. We're not more important or less important. We are as important as those three groups. We are the core that holds up all of the athletes in our charge. So we all need to do a better job of staking that claim for ourselves. I'm going to do it as an organization, and we all need to reinforce that. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. Secondarily, the convention for the convention schedule is up. So feel free, Skeleton. We're going to work on getting that out a little bit quicker. There were some feed changes, so I apologize about that. And we're going to get a little bit better at getting a more comprehensive schedule up earlier. We're going to have some fun parties. Monday night, Tuesday nights. And Katrina, our vice president, is going to be doing a wonderful job with we're going to have a space in the hotel, the sponsor hotel, where every night, if you just want to go play cards, you just want to meet people, there's just going to be a safe space in there for you guys to go in that isn't necessarily involving like a bar. So that's really, there's a lot of other really cool things that are be happening. I'm really excited about it. I just want to bring the fun back to convention along with the learning, the learning. What was the last thing? Oh, yes. EMOI voting is up for all of your districts if it hasn't already been completed. Vote for people, nominate people, and most importantly, when it gets to Glenn Sharp, vote for people. It's really nice to recognize one another for all of our efforts. So that's all I got. If anybody has a question for me, I'd be more than happy to take it. I'm looking forward to the spring. I'm hitting the road here. Talking about conflict, I didn't get my jerseys till yesterday, and I ran out to Tim at Image Apparel, and he got it done for me in 4 hours, all my embroidery to put my B1G patches. I was sweating, but coaches don't know about my sweat. They don't care about our sweat. They don't care. They don't care. The athletes don't care. We care because we want to be professionals and we want to do a job right. So, so if you think people are going to walk around caring about our problems, then you're not in the right profession. They don't care. They care when you don't have it, but that's our job, is to take care of it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Does anybody have any questions for me? Open forum. Otherwise, Jalen, another great job. Josh, thanks for being the hostess with the mostest in our panel. Sticks, great to see you.
Melly, thanks. Al, you wanna hop on now?
Yeah, absolutely. Al Serby, Kansas State University, head football equipment manager here. I've been blessed to be the education committee chair for AMA here just this past year. Really 2 things with the education committee is the journal, which Jalen spoke about, and as well as the manual that we use to take our exam each year. We're looking for 2 things as the committee. We're looking for anyone interested in the journal. If they want to write, we just released the COVID one. If you want to take a look at that, we do have some breakdown on kind of what we're looking for from journals. Becca and Michael Valentine at Northwestern really handle all the journal things. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to them and talk ideas or interest in writing. The big thing that we really could use some help on is some people coming and joining our education committee manual committee that we have to rewrite the manual. We are going to rewrite the manual, update some of the things that need to be updated. There's a few different sections. And if you're interested, I'd love to talk with you. Reach out, email me, set up a time. We can talk around your schedule. There's a bunch of different aspects in the manual that you guys can get involved with if you're interested. It could be helping someone rewrite. It could be helping someone, or it could be you rewriting if you're interested. I can kind of show you those things. CEUs are involved. It's a great experience for you. Educating people, as well as you'll get credit, of course, within the manual when it comes out. We're looking to hopefully do it digital too, but the pages will be just digital and everything like that. So appreciate everyone's time. Reach out if you're interested, and look forward to talking with you about it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to scan the QR code, and we'll have the recording out and everything ready to go. Let's try to get everybody over 100. We had 90 plus here today and last week, or last time we had this. Try to get over 100 next time. So have a great week, everybody. Talk to you all later.
Thank you.